Had reflections. I had loved my dead husband. Had. Makes it seem as if I didn't or perhaps don't at this stage of life. I'll be honest. I couldn't for the longest time. Even before he succumbed to the AIDS-induced pneumonia that obliterated his beautiful, complicated, yet slightly tortured soul, I had forgone loving him. It was safer for me to hate him. I received more sympathy that way. I can say that now and know it to be true. Back then, the truth wasn't, in my eyes or even in the eyes of those who loved me because of blood relation, church affiliation, or good neighbor fellowship, even an option. Cancer or something or another. The stench of those words on my very lips haunts me to this day. What else was I supposed to say? That he died due to negligence from a government and healthcare industry that saw minuscule of any value in his life or the lives of those that were disappearing from this devastation. That all the religious folk and the healers would barely look him in the face, let alone touch his feeble body in the midst of soul-saving prayer. I was a wife, formerly, and a mother, not some goddamn AIDS rights activist. His freedom to suck dick when he should have been living out my fairy tale fantasies as my Prince Charming were of no concern of mine. Who gives a flying fuck that he found time in between his newfound community activism and freedom while traipsing down the boulevard with some hairy-ass man to still take Junior to his t-ball games, read him his favorite story, and give love as only a father can to his spitting image? He had sucked, literally, as my husband, and I would never forgive him for the perceived wrongs he'd done in spite of the good he embodied. Besides, those days are a complete blur, and I'd rather forget that I was at some point in my humanity a heartless bitch that was more concerned with what the world would think of me loving a man that loved me as best he could, though he desired what I could never give. Hairy balls and a stiff dick. He deserved my respect, not a sanitization or a dequeering of his experience. There was no First Wives Club for this particular journey, and if there were, perhaps I had always known that this was his proclivity and wasn't so oblivious to the truth that men such as he existed and thrived in a world all their own. And on countless nights after the gin and tonics induced what counting sheep could never, that world collided with mine in a way that would fuck my sanity for decades. I would become a woman undone, and he became free. For a while, if you call a few months after his sparkling revelation a while, we did, or perhaps it was just I, did the best to make it work. We had a son to raise, after all, and a community conditioned to husbands tipping off in the dark to meet the tawdry bitch that was confused about her place in his life, desiring a position with somebody else's guy and was willing to wait her turn until death did us part. Us wives knew the game all too well, plotted and survived, because that is what we did when blindsided by the reality of happily ever after. But not my husband. We were to be the laughingstock and pariahs of a community that thrived in those secrets that survived best in the dark. I was a single woman whose husband had left her, not for bigger tits, a tighter snatch, or a less than desirable IQ. He left me for his sanity and freedom. The epiphany that he had saved himself so that me and Junior could live eluded me well into the new millennium. I was too selfish to believe that perhaps he was at war with himself, and wanted to spare his wife and many as casualties. I never wanted to get that deep, for that would mean I would connect with his pain of living in a world that invalidated his truth. So he had to live a lie in hopes that he would eventually forget and nobody will be stupid enough to remind him. Not Senior. He only cared about himself, in spite of him loving Junior and trying to keep me in his world as his friend. Mama never said there'd be days like this, and those who knew couldn't get close enough to assist me with the process. He is dead now, though his spirit lives on in many he turned grown. We do not talk much, as he has not forgiven me for wasting precious time hating the one man who loved him to life in ways that my grief incapacitated me from fulfilling. I do not blame him. There was no how-to or 10 easy steps to grieving your dead gay husband who died from AIDS complications and raised his mini-he in the process. Perhaps there are such literary tomes now, but back then